What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. We're going to be talking about something very shocking for many people out there listening. Obviously, if you were waiting for this video to debut, it's not that shocking, but we'll be talking about the fact that Happy Death Day 3 is in fact moving forward, according to those that were in attendance at this screening, the double feature of the first two movies, where Christopher Landon and Jessica Rothe were in attendance, and they gave some comments afterward, apparently including the fact that the third movie is moving forward. Now, this is not an April Fool's joke for anyone who remembers the joke I put out on April 1st. This has nothing to do with that tweet, nor did I have an idea in my mind that they were actually going to be announcing it later this same week. So I want to just recap going over what some of the comments we've been hearing over the past few years from Landon, and a more recent comment we've heard from Jessica Rothe, but starting off here mostly with some of Landon's comments about his efforts to make it happen and ultimately why it was taking so long. At one point, he told us that there's no movement at all, sadly. There was a tiny moment where I really felt like I had Universal's attention, but they forgot about me. I think it's a really tough one for them, and I'm being really blunt and honest in that the first movie was very successful. It made a lot of money, it was well received, and the sequel was not. The sequel is loved by people who have seen it, but it did not make a lot of money, and it was not a success for them, of course being Universal. So it's very hard to motivate them to make a third movie when the last one just didn't perform. Now, had they had dropped it around October, or at least the Halloween season like they did with the first movie, maybe that would have been a different outcome. But they dropped it around, what was it, Valentine's Day? A very odd strategy, but whatever. Says those are real hard economics of the business, he continues. So I don't know what it would take. There was a talk for a minute of it maybe being a Peacock thing, which he elaborated on this year, stating that would probably have been like a 3-part series. But he says that would have been a Peacock thing, maybe one day. The beauty of it is that my idea, the whole idea for the third movie, is not dependent on any sort of specific window or time frame. So I could make it any time, but I mean, as the years draw past, I feel like our chances are dimming. Now, last year, Jessica Rothe gave these comments to Screen Geek while promoting that movie she did with Bill Skarsgård. She stated, well, I can say Chris Landon has the whole thing figured out. We just need to wait for Blumhouse and Universal to get their ducks in a row. But my fingers are so crossed. I think Tree deserves her third and final chapter to bring that incredible character and franchise to a close or a new beginning. Now, how we came about this is the fact that, again, there was a screening, a double feature that happened last night, where Hunter Bolding was in attendance. Hunter and a few others have been mentioning that after the screening, I'll leave a link to Hunter's tweet and a video that's hopefully going to be up by the time this is uploaded. But Hunter is claiming that Jessica Rothe in a tweet and Christopher Landon just confirmed that Happy Death Day 3 is going forward at a double feature screening of the first two movies. Again, I will leave a link to Hunter's tweet for you all to read it. But that is where this news comes from. Reputable outlets or accounts, I should say, that usually don't post anything unless it's going to be reputable, have been sharing this. Discussing Film is on top of it. You'll probably start seeing this spread all throughout the horror community by the time this is uploaded this morning, Sunday. But yeah, we're going to be going back and revisiting the character of Tree finally. Now, I think the other thing that Christopher Landon has told us about this project is that if it were to happen, it's not going to be called Happy Death Day Tree. That's the joke that people thought would have been brilliant, clever in a way. Instead of calling it Happy Death Day 3, call it Happy Death Day Tree. He's told us, though, that it wouldn't be called that. It will be called Happy Death Day to Us. Now, I believe also he has stated he has not written the script. That's what he stated more recently when going a little bit deeper into what that Peacock thing was this year when speaking with Games Radar. However, given that they just announced this bombshell this weekend, I'm wondering how much of that might have been not truthful. Has he actually written the script, or is that still something he has to work on? Because at this point, we just know it's in development, but how far along is the project actually? Because now I'm side-eyeing some of his comments. Like, well, actually, did you really write it? How far along are you? He could have written the whole thing and was just trying to protect the secret. But that is what I want to talk about. We're going to get Happy Death Day 3, which would be titled Happy Death Day to Us. That is what he told us it would be titled a while back. We'll see if that still ends up being the case. I am curious to see if they start exploring the multiverse that was set up in the sequel a bit further, because that would lend itself to you probably already know where I'm going. Catherine Newton coming into the mix. They can bring Millie involved, Millie from Freaky, and there's your Freaky Death Day. Because if it's called Happy Death Day to us, that would entail, obviously, there's going to be more characters stuck in this loop, I would imagine, not just Tree. That's where you can have Tree, Millie, and whoever else you want to throw into the mix. And Millie gets tossed in because they explore other areas of this multiverse, and that is how they connect it all. I think Ryan stated that there are, 6? There's 6 that they have at least counted for. There's probably more. Ryan's whole machine, I believe, was the catalyst for why Tree was in that loop. And yeah, they're probably going to explore it a bit further in Happy Death Day 3, and that's how Millie can come into the mix. I just see them doing a crossover bit, since people also were clamoring for some sort of crossover between Freaky and Happy Death Day, and now they have an opportunity to do it with a title like Happy Death Day to Us. That could literally open the door for Millie to get involved. But we'll see what comes of this. I honestly hope that they just lean more on the murder mystery of that first film. The sci-fi stuff introduced in 2, while it was fine, I don't think it necessarily went too overboard. I think when the movie first dropped, it took a minute for it to grow on me, but it wasn't like a complete train wreck. It was just, I guess, a curveball that I wasn't really all that thrilled about, but over time, I just grew to love it. I would appreciate, though, them dialing that back. I don't necessarily want to even explore any more of the multiverse. I would want to see them somehow work their way out of that and get back to a murder mystery angle that has multiple people caught in a death loop, maybe for an entirely different reason that is not connected to Carter's friend who built that machine. Get rid of that. I don't know. If you can somehow ignore that or downplay it, if you will, I'm all for that. And I'm sure many of you listening to this who weren't necessarily too thrilled about that sci-fi inclusion wouldn't mind it either. You don't have to say it didn't happen, but just find a way to kind of downplay it. Get back to that murder mystery of that first film. Tree as a character, love her. Jessica Rothe, can't wait to see her back. And looking forward to seeing how she ends up in another predicament like this, because that's the biggest question I have. How does she end up back in this predicament? That's why I'm so certain they're not going to try to come up with anything that doesn't involve the multiverse. They're going to go right back to exploring Ryan's machine a bit further, and it's probably going to be more wacky than the second one. That's, I think, my biggest fear about the movie right now. As much as I don't mind that we're getting the third one, I am a bit concerned about how science fiction it goes as opposed to murder mystery. Big shout out to you, Isabella, for sending over a video. I know you were in attendance. I also know you're a major Happy Death Day fan. I know you're excited about this, but you sent over this video of Jessica talking about Happy Death Day 3 and how it's moving forward. So I'll have that playing at the end of this before the outro. Hope you guys enjoy that. You guys let me know what you think about this down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, of course, make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications, you'll never miss a video. In the description, I'll have links to all of my social media accounts. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there, of course. Let me know if there are any movies, news, or reviews you'd like me to cover in the future. And with all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next video.
Real is that? Is there a possibility that you're going to make that anytime soon?
It's funny you should mention that.
So funny you should mention that. Oh, it's my turn? You know, we can't say much, but what we can say is the third movie is moving forward.
What?
It is evolving. It is
Stop it.
Just stop. It is
It is moving.
Yes, it is.